Welcome to today's lesson, which is going to be very helpful because I'm going to tell you some useful words that will help you become an amazing listener, but also a very effective speaker. That's coming up. What's up, guys? My name's Wes. This is Interactive English, which is all about helping you guys practice and improve your English skills. And like I said, this is a very useful lesson because it is about both listening and speaking. It's going to help you become a better listener, but also if you're going to be able to use some of the information that I tell you today, it is going to help you become a much better speaker, especially when it comes to presentations. And we give presentations all the time if we are at school or university, but even at work in a business setting, we may give different presentations. So the way we're going to do that is by talking about signpost. And more specifically, we're going to talk about how to follow the signpost. And signposts are just what they look like. They are signs that tell us the direction that we need to go. Signposts will tell us where we need to go, and they help take us from one idea to another one. So if you are joining us today, I want to hear from you guys. Say hi, say what's up in the chat, tell me where you're from. Even if you're watching this later, I just want to hear from you. Write your name, say hello, and I will try and say everybody's name. Hello, Shiva, Lali, Diego, Valeria, Renee, Haley, how are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Ria, welcome to today's lesson, which, again, it's going to help you guys with your listening and speaking skills. And at the end, we will also do a bit of a practice. So let's just reiterate what are signposts. Let's look at that again. So what are signposts? Those are words or phrases that people use to move between ideas and show the listener or reader what has just happened or what is going to happen next. Now, when we're talking about signposts, there are many different reasons that we use these. More specifically, like I said, just to change from one idea to the next. But there's many reasons how we might be changing ideas. And these are four of them right here. Now, I'm not going to give you all of the signposts within each one of these. There are many. I'm going to give you some of the more popular ones, and we will do more lessons using signposts in the future because, again, it is so important to help you become a better listener as well as a more proficient speaker. So the first one that we're going to talk about is changing direction. If we want to move in a different direction, what are some signposts that we can use, or what do we need to listen for? Also, number two, emphasizing a point. If we say something and then we really want to make sure that our audience knows how important it is, we will emphasize the point. We can also add a similar point, and this is common if you're talking about something and you are giving details and examples. You might want to use these signposts in order to add a point. And then finally, summarizing, which if we're talking about presentations, we would often do at the end of a presentation. Or if you are listening, then you might listen for these words that tell you, okay, the presentation is getting ready to end. So it's really important that you are able to identify these words if you are listening to somebody speak. And it's also great that you understand these words so that you can use them if you are giving a presentation or you are having a conversation and you are trying to move the person you're talking to in one direction or another so that everybody understands what's going on. So let's first look at, and as we do this, what I would ask you guys to do in the chat is give some examples, because I think some of these words you're probably familiar with. So in the chat, write some examples, write some sentences we just want to hear from you guys, and it's great for others to be able to read that and see how these are used in context. And of course, I'll give you guys some examples as well. So let's first look at changing direction. To change direction, one of the most common words is that one up there, however. And we use however to talk about, like, it contrasts the previous statement. So you're saying something different that contrasts the statement before it. So for example, I'd say, I love eating out at restaurants. However, something I don't love, which contrasts that, however, it can get really expensive. And notice with all of my examples, I've put the signpost at the very front of the sentence. Now, they're not always used at the front of the sentence. I've just done this so that you can see how they're used and really clearly see how we're changing ideas and how we're changing direction. So I love eating out at restaurants. However, it can get really expensive. This is true. Conversely, this is a good one, and you'll see, again, a lot of these words, they're used in more academic context, or you would see them if you are reading newspaper articles. So this is a little more advanced, and I'm going to test you on that a little bit later. So conversely, it reverses the statement that was just made. So for example, the medicine didn't help. Conversely, it made my condition worse. So it's not like you're saying, however, like you're contrasting it with the previous statement. You're reversing it. You're going in the opposite direction, that this thing did the opposite. Conversely, it made my condition worse. Now, let's look at a couple others. On the other hand, so this is when you want to describe two opposite actions, all right? On the other hand, you're describing two opposite ideas. I want to take a vacation, okay? On the other hand, I have so much work to do. Those are two opposite ideas, vacation and work. I want to take a vacation. On the other hand, I have so much work to do. It's true. And the other one, another point to consider is, this is a phrase, this is an expression, and it's basically, it changes the focus to a different idea. So it's saying like, oh, okay, yeah. One other thing that you need to know, one other point to consider is. So for example, if we have that picture down there, the beach, it's summer and people travel during the summer. So somebody might say, something that's not good is it's really hot. It's hot during the summer. Some people don't like being outside. And then somebody could say, another point to consider is that summer travel spots may be crowded. In addition to being very hot outside, these places might also be crowded. So we are changing the focus to this different idea. Excellent. So let's continue. Let me show you. Now, this is really how you'll be able to see some of these used in context. These are some examples. These are real examples that I found for you. They are from articles that are pretty recent as well. So that first one is from the Tampa Bay Times. And again, this is talking about how we're changing directions. And just all you can do is the reason for this is to see these examples and see how they're used in context. By some measures, African Americans are employed close to the highest rate in modern history. On the other hand, they are still much more likely to be unemployed than the rest of the population. So again, on the other hand, we're showing those two different ideas. Now, again, remember, conversely, we're talking about it's reversing, moving in the opposite direction. I don't know how to pronounce that. Somebody in China may know this company. Pinduoduo, China's latest e-commerce giant to list on the NASDAQ, which is a stock exchange, found that the initial public offering is not a panacea. Now, panacea is a word, it means a solution, that it is a remedy to help something. It's not a common word, but that's what it means. So they found that the initial public offering to go public was not a panacea, a remedy, a solution. Conversely, it did the opposite. Its listing has drawn attention to the company's counterfeit products, and investors are not happy. So again, these are some really great examples so that you can see how these signposts are actually used, and those are real examples. So let's continue and talk about emphasis, all right? And again, I want to hear from you guys. Think of some examples, just write those in the chat. And if you guys are just joining us, we're talking about signposts to help you improve your listening skills as well as become a more effective speaker if you're able to use these signposts correctly. So when we want to emphasize something, we could use furthermore. So it's basically saying, in addition to what was said, you are adding some other information that's going to help. We appreciate it when you like our lessons. Furthermore, we enjoy reading your comments. So again, I'm emphasizing those two things as well as being a little suggestive, all right? We appreciate it when you like those comments and hit that like button. Furthermore, in addition, we enjoy reading your comments when you guys just say, hey, what's up? My name is so-and-so. And we just love hearing from you guys. You can also use moreover, which again, some of these are synonyms as well. I saw somebody had asked about talking about however and but. Again, those basically, they're interchangeable. However and but have the same meaning. Moreover has the same meaning kind of as also. Moreover, also, or more importantly, if you're talking about ideas and then building on top of that. You should study English a little bit each day. That's my suggestion. Moreover, another suggestion. You should practice using interactive activities such as this live lesson, because we are going to practice at the end. I have some different ways to practice to see if you guys were paying attention and know how to use signposts. So again, these are great ways to express emphasis. Two other ways to express emphasis. In fact, all right, you are emphasizing that something is true, the truth of an assertion, the truth of a statement. And this is a ridiculous example. Wes loves pizza. In fact, all right, emphasize it. How much does he love pizza? In fact, he eats it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, okay? So it's emphasizing this truth, in fact, all right? This is not true. However, all right, contrasting it, that is my favorite pizza right there, a pepperoni pizza. That is true. My favorite pizza is pepperoni. We can also use this phrase right here. It is also important to highlight, okay? Again, we are drawing attention to another detail that follows one. It's also important to highlight how much Wes enjoys eating spaghetti, all right? Don't just think about the pizza. It's also important to highlight how much he enjoys eating spaghetti. Excellent. So again, these are great signposts in order to add emphasis. So let's look at some real life examples. The first one from Business Insider. In 2018, I still use a desktop. All right, let's emphasize that. In fact, I actively prefer using a desktop over a laptop. The next one is NASDAQ, which again is that stock exchange. So a lot of stock stuff and financial stuff in here. Growth in revenues was driven by strong performance of segments. Further, the company witnessed robust organic growth of 12%. Moreover, all right, also more importantly, acquisitions contributed 5% to top line growth. These are some great real life examples that reinforce how to use these signposts and what these signposts mean. So also, let me take a quick little break to tell you we are now on Patreon. So again, if you guys like what we do, if you want to show us some love and support, check out our Patreon page. We have some cool rewards and a link is in the description. So let's continue and talk about some more signposts. And now we're going to move to similar points. If we're talking about adding a similar point, all right, this is one that I use all the time. and would tell one of the first ones that I would teach students and tell them like, hey, this is a great one to use in your writing. It's great to use in your speaking, in a presentation, and it's good to listen for if you're listening to somebody speak. In addition, you are mentioning something that's connected to something else, what was just mentioned. So for example, I will teach you signpost. In addition, I will provide you with examples, just like this sentence right here. I will teach you signposts in addition, because these are connected. I will provide you with examples. Also is, like I said, some of these are interchangeable. Also basically means the same as in addition, except I think also is probably a bit more informal. So you would hear it a lot in colloquial speech. But I think if you wanted to be more formal, if you're giving a presentation or in your writing, I would go with in addition, but also same meaning. We teach grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary. Let's add to it. Also, we teach you a little about American culture. So this is true. Our videos teach you English, but we also try to throw in some cultural stuff as well. So let's look at some more. Similarly. We use similarly to indicate similarity between two ideas. So if we're talking about things that are bad, smoking is harmful. Similarly, drug use has negative effects on one's health. These are two things that are not good for our health. So we can use similarly to draw the similarity between these two ideas. Another word that's pretty much almost interchangeable, likewise. Likewise just means in the same way. Often we can use both likewise and similarly, interchangeably. The country has inefficient public transportation. Okay, what's inefficient? The country's inefficient public transportation. Likewise, the roads and bridges are in poor condition. So you're talking about two things that are negative, and we're adding another point that in this case, which is something that's not good. Let's look at some of the other examples. All right. So some more examples of adding similar points right here. All right. New York Times. In addition to disturbing wildlife, all right, so they've given you the first point. Now they're going to give you the second. In addition to disturbing wildlife, Mr. Reinke faces several other charges, including being intoxicated to a degree that endangers himself or others, unreasonable noise, and keeping an open container of alcohol in a vehicle, according to court documents. So in this case, Mr. Reinke has some problems, okay? Next, down below, Forbes, from Forbes magazine. For instance, in order to make your CTA buttons pop out, keep the size of the rest of the text smaller. Similarly, the size of the headings should be slightly larger than the size of the body text. In case you're wondering, CTA stands for a call to action. When you guys do things that we do, we always give you a call to action, something we want you to do. For example, I always tell you guys, hit that like button, hit the like button. That is a call to action. I'm asking you to do something. So in this case, it's saying the CTA needs to stand out, make the text size bigger. Similarly, the size of the heading should be larger than the body of the text. So these are great examples that you guys can see how it's used in real life. And I think the next time that you are reading an article and newspaper, definitely look for these signposts. Try to see if you can identify some of them. And again, understand, okay, this is where it's taking me. This is where the article's taking me, the author's taking me, or even if you're listening to a presentation like a TED Talk, listen for these signposts because we use them all the time. Let's look at the last part, summarizing. This is one of my favorites that I would always, very simply, always teach students when you're talking about the end. You're getting to the end of your point, or you're getting to the end of your presentation or your essay. This is a great one talking about in conclusion, okay? In conclusion, you're kind of summing up. And when you hear that in conclusion, or if you read in conclusion, or if you say in conclusion, then you're telling the person, okay, this is getting ready to end. All right. So this is a great one to know. Like, in conclusion, the price of oil will continue to rise. So perhaps I was talking about oil and how the price is changing and why the price is going up. And then I can end it and say, in conclusion, the price will continue to rise. Finally is another good word to use. We're introducing that final point. Okay, so we're kind of summarizing, we may be summarizing things that we were talking about, or we're just kind of getting to that final point. And if you're talking about your day, maybe I'd say, like, I did this first, next, then, and finally, we ate dinner at an Indian restaurant. Okay, so those are good words. In conclusion, finally. Some other good signposts are these two right here, to summarize. So if you say to summarize and you hear that, then you know, okay, they're getting ready to end, and give kind of a brief summary of the main points, the main ideas. To summarize, our European vacation was exciting and educational. Okay, that's a very short that's a very short summary, but just to give you the idea. And again, overall is a bit similar. I think in this case, overall, I feel like it is a little more informal, and you might hear it more in everyday English. To summarize is a great one for a presentation or in your writing, but again, they're very similar. So overall is taken as a whole. And I could say, if we're talking about the dinner, I could say, overall, the chicken dinner was bland and without much flavor. All right, overall, taken as a whole. Let's look at some examples. That first one up there, Kelley Blue Book, says, in conclusion, the bottom line is that if a vehicle is found that is over 10 years old, has the right price, looks attractive, and fits your needs, a loan will likely be available from a bank, credit union, or other financial institution, assuming that your credit is good. So again, in conclusion, we're summing up what the article was about. And again, like I said, you find these all the time. So the next time you're reading an article, look for some of these. See if you can identify them. This one's from Seeking Alpha, which is another financial magazine. To summarize the quarter, all right? To summarize the main points of the quarter, we continue to make strategic investments against our key growth initiatives, and we've made important progress on Project Fuel, our enterprise-wide initiative to transfer the company's business and the cost structure. So, like I said, I think these signposts, they're not too difficult to learn, I think. They're very valuable to use, especially because we use them a lot when we're talking about more in-depth conversations, more advanced conversations. So it's a great place to start to learn these so that you can follow these conversations a little easier. You can follow these presentations. If you're listening to a presentation as a TED Talk, or you're listening to somebody give a presentation at work or school or wherever. All right, so my next question is, are you guys ready to practice? Are you ready to practice what you've learned? And I've seen a lot of great comments. So let's practice, and I have some questions for you. So here are some of the signposts we talked about. I told you that this is going to help with your listening and speaking, if you can use them. But right now, I'm just going to test your listening. So I'm going to read something to you, and there's a blank space. And instead of the blank, I'm just going to do like a pop. And I want you to think of which signpost would correctly go in that blank. So this is a little challenging because you need to listen and understand most of what's being said, and then write that in the chat. I'll say it a couple times. So are you ready? The first one that I have for you is this. Okay, here we go. We could take the train to San Francisco and get there in 6 hours. We could fly and get there in 1 hour. All right, I will read that again. Ready? We could take the train to San Francisco and get there in 6 hours. We could fly and get there in 1 hour. All right, so which Which signpost is going to help us transition adequately but from one idea to the next? All right. Write your answers in the chat. And again, I know this may be a little more difficult, and there might be more than one correct answer because, like I said, some of these are interchangeable, and you don't always have to use one over the other. So one more time. We could take the train to San Francisco and get there in 6 hours. We could fly and get there in 1 hour. I'm seeing some great answers from you guys. Thank you guys for answering. Fernando, Selim, Anita, Mohammed, Patricia, thanks for your answers. Let's look at this, what I had. All right. I had, we could take the train to San Francisco and get there in 6 hours. Okay, that's one option. All right. Another idea, a different idea. On the other hand, we could fly and get there in 1 hour. All right. That's just what I used. I think you could use however is also another one that would go. I saw some of you put also. I think you know that would fit too. You could, that's another option. But I think in this context, it's better to say like however or on the other hand, because you're kind of comparing the two. We could take the train and it takes 6 hours. How, on the other hand, or however, we could fly and get there in 1. All right. So let's do the next one. All right. Ready? I'm going to read this to you again. Bear with me. I'm having to like switch back and forth a lot between screens. So ready? In order to improve your English skills, you should establish short-term goals. You should try to study a little bit each day. Okay? Ready? In order to improve your English, you should establish short-term goals. You should try to study a little bit each day. Which signpost goes in the middle of those two ideas and helps us move from one to the next? Which one do you guys think? In order to improve your English, you should establish short-term goals. You should try to study a little bit each day. Again, I think there you might find more than one answer. Excellent. Patricia, Fernando, Mohammed, Nish, Julia. We have this. In order to improve your English, you should establish short-term goals. Moreover, we're adding another point. You should try to study a little bit each day. If you said in addition, I think that would be fine. Also, again, that's correct. I just chose moreover. Again, you're kind of, it gives it a little more emphasis, that moreover. So let's look at the next one. I have one more listening for you, and then I have a different practice. So the other listening that I have for you is this one. Ready? They usually cook dinner at home. When he is traveling, she usually eats out. Okay? They usually cook dinner at home. When he is traveling, she usually eats out. Okay, which signpost kind of connects or like would really help go between those two ideas? They usually cook dinner at home. I guess they're talking about a husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. They usually cook dinner at home. When he is traveling, she usually eats out. What do you guys think? What would go in that one? All right. All right. Some good answers. What was looking for is this one. So, and there's some others you could use. They usually cook dinner at home. Conversely, when he's traveling, she usually eats out. All right. Because these are, I was trying to go kind of two opposite ideas. You eat at home. What's the opposite of that? What's the complete reverse of that? Would be eating out. So conversely, when he is traveling, she usually eats out. Again, in this context, if you said however, that's perfectly fine. That would make sense. So again, it's not always one or the other. Let's do some more practice. Are you ready? So in this one, this is a little more challenging. I've given you, again, this is a real example. I'm going to read through this and tell me which signpost goes in that yellow blank right there. So why in the world would we shut down the one thing that's made everything else possible? Franklin asked, explaining that the joint wasn't shutting down anytime soon. Franklin Barbecue is expanding its offering. By the end of the year, we're opening up a tractor trailer outside of Franklin, he said. The 1971 Airstreamer trailer, which won't have... Okay, I kind of cut it off because we didn't have to keep going. So which one do you think would appropriately go in that blank? Write it in the comments. And again, even if you guys are watching this later, join in. Write your answers in the comments. We want to hear from you. All right. What do you guys think? This is a little more challenging because, again, we're getting into these articles where you don't have the entire context. I've tried to give you as much as I could. So you're talking about something that people thought was shutting down. All right. And then it's, Franklin Barbecue is expanding its offerings. All right. Why would we shut down? So what we're looking for, in fact, why in the world would we shut down something that's made everything else possible? The joint wasn't shutting down soon, okay? It's the opposite. In fact, all right, we're expanding. So again, remember we can use in fact to emphasize that point, all right? We're not shutting down. Why would we shut down? We're expanding. So let's look at, that was a little more difficult. Let's see if this one maybe is a little easier, all right? Fortune. The decision is a welcome one in part because Jones's news channel, InfoWars, has contaminated our media and political discourse with paranoia and stupidity. Jones deserves to be flushed because he inflicts harm on his targets, most notably the grieving parents of the Sandy Hook massacre, who have faced a harassment campaign from Jones supporters who claim their child's death was a hoax. This is something that's been in the news recently. Like I said, these are examples that I've taken pretty recently. All right. Do you guys have any thoughts? What do you think? All right. They're shutting down this news channel, contaminates the political discourse and paranoia. Jones deserves to be flushed. All right. What do you guys think? All right. Some good answers in there. That they have is likewise. All right. You're adding something similar. All right. He is contaminated the political discourse. Likewise, Jones deserves to be flushed because he inflicts harm on his targets. All right. So he's contaminating the media. Likewise, he inflicts harm on his targets. So let's look at one more. All right. And this is, I give you a little bit of a title. It's from the Daily Norseman. This is talking about American football, to give you some context. The offensive line is in big trouble. Why it might be true. For starters, the offensive line was a pretty large concern heading into camp. The Vikings, which is the name of a team, are literally looking for starters because they're currently down to 3 of them. The middle of the line is gutted with Nick Easton, Pat Alfin, and Mike Remmers all sidelined. Okay? Again, this is a little challenging. Which one goes in there? For starters, all right, it was a concern heading into the season. What do you guys think could adequately go in there also? All right? So for starters, the offensive line was a pretty large concern heading into the camp. What's something else? Also, the Vikings they're literally looking for starters. They're looking for other places because they have trouble with this offensive line. Again, that might be more challenging because you might not follow American football. And I wanted to try and work from something that was a little easier, the listening, which I did, to something that's a little more difficult, like those articles. So I hope that you guys found this useful, and we will talk more about this later because Signposts, it is so important to learn. It helps you become a better listener. It's going to help you become a more effective speaker, and try to identify these when you're reading an article or listening to a speech. And also, if you're telling a story or you're giving a presentation, make sure you include these because it makes it easier for the other people to understand what you're saying because they can listen for these signposts. So please like and share this lesson. If you enjoy what we do, you can write us in the comments, say hello. We just want to hear from you guys and join our social media classes. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And again, if you want to help us, show some love, check out Patreon. It's always there. So thank you, Mohammed, Fernando, Victor, Vincent, Anita. Thank you guys for joining me today. Molly, I really appreciate you guys being here. And we will be back next week for another live lesson. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.